think all of you can agree that a lot of us learn a lot of different ways. For most of us, it's looking at something visually. Some of us it's hearing. Other of us it's hands-on activities. Well, some guy named Yogi Berra said you can observe a lot just by watching. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. And I disagree with that. To me, I'm the person that learns not just by watching, but by doing. I feel like you can't achieve anything until you actually put yourself out there and do it. And so I'm going to talk to you guys about some examples on visual learning and how they can't always achieve the greatest long-term, they can't always transfer into long-term memory the best way. And so all of us watch movies, right? I'm pretty sure there's not one person in here that's never seen a movie, right? Okay. Well, I mean, if I'm watching a Kung Fu movie, I can't just like go, okay, I'm going to learn how to karate chop some guy and, no. It requires, practice and constant, doing it or whatever. So that's kind of one of the examples. It's kind of a lame one, but I figured, it popped into my head. Another one is in class. I mean, I can sit there and listen to him talk and watch him up here on the board do whatever he wants, but I'm not going to remember it tomorrow until I write it down or I think about it and try to maybe, connect it with my life in some way. So that's what I feel like that's important. You can't just watch, you have to engage yourself in life. And another one is in your work. A lot of people say, oh yeah, just watch what I'm doing and you'll be able to do it. No, I can't. I have to do it and do it in front of you in order for me to see what mistakes I've done and for the person to see what I've done wrong. And if I can't do it right, then I just feel horrible inside. And it's just like, if you just watch, you forget. And if you do it once, you know that you can do it and you can do it again over and over. So I just feel like looking and just watching life doesn't really, it's just, you can't just watch life go by. You have to engage in it. You have to actually do something in order to learn, make memories. And so I think this guy's wrong.
Wow.
I said his name.
Yogi Berra. One of the greatest gamers of all time.
That's only in the whole thing.
Yogi Berra is one of the greatest gamers of all time in history.
Really?
Yes.
R.I.P. That's cool. That's very well.
I was like, what the?
Yeah.
True.
I guess one
I want to see if he says the small.
I tried to be funny
like roasting her.
Great band.
They're just like roasting her.
Huh?
The band.
The great band.
No, but then it was like, who's band?
Oh, yeah.
That was
just some
really
guy.
dear.
Smalls, you want some more? Some more what?
First you take the gram,
You my heart.
then you take the yeah.
Some guy.
Some guy.
All right, well, I like the idea of different ways of learning and the interpretation that you gave to the quote. That was fine. Your point of view, I thought, was very clearly stated. There's not much of a preview, although as looking back on it, I can see a structure in what you're talking about based on the examples that you have. I think you need to lay that out a little bit more for the audience at the beginning of the speech so that we know where you're headed, although you may not know exactly where you're headed. Maybe some of those you just come up with at the last second. The content is reasonably well developed. I think you're going to think about those kung fu movies, for instance, and say, maybe I did learn a few things from that. Or maybe you're like Neo, you should have gotten plugged in and learned kung fu in 5 seconds, just that kind of thing. But the idea that there's something that you you know, just seeing things doesn't mean that it's the same thing as being able to do those things. You see people fall in love, that's not the same thing as falling in love yourself. There are lots of comparisons that you could be able to use. You got stuck with the Kung Fu thing and couldn't get off of that example, and once you're there, that's kind of where you're staying. There's also a school example and a work example, and I think that those are probably good structural points. They just need to be developed a little bit more. Presentation issues, almost all of them are very solid. I think you've got very good inflection in your voice. Your pacing is very solid and consistent. I thought you had excellent facial expressions, very good eye contact with the audience. I didn't notice any problems with your posture or your body positioning. I thought maybe it was a little bit thin sometimes on your voice. Usually you project, but sometimes when there's uncertainty, you kind of drop your voice a little bit. And sometimes that's a transition thing, but often it's just like, well, I've run out of stuff to talk about, and so you just try to drop your voice a little bit to indicate that. You know, I think you want to be careful about that. I thought you were much more engaged with the audience than you probably thought you were, and despite the fact that those guys are giving you a hard time about not knowing who Yogi Berra is, your point of view was reasonably clear. Thank you.